Hello, everybody. Welcome. It's good to have you with us for another session on GoDaddy Pro events. I'm Courtney Robertson. You've seen me often lurking over in the Q&A section or popping in briefly for these events, but now that I've been in the job for a little while, it's time that I kick off some events as well. So up first, I've invited Scott Kingsley Clark to be with us, fresh on the heels of his world famous debut at WordCamp US. He had a musical performance during the lunch break, and it was delightful. I've known Scott now for, 5, 6 years officially, although I was in pods 7 or 8 years ago, so I probably bumped into you back then. Scott and I worked together for a number of years at a former company, and both of us have started into new roles in other places. I hear Pods has a whole lot going on. So, Scott, can you tell us a little bit about yourself, what it is that you do?
Sure. So I'm Scott Kingsley Clark. I'm super excited to be here. You talked me way up on the the appearance. It was like a 3 or 4 minute music video as part of like 10 other people.
Yeah,
But
it's
it
great.
was exciting. And I am the product manager for Paid Memberships Pro. And I'm also the lead developer of the Pods framework. It's a great product. I've just fallen in love with a few weeks after it was released in 2008. And ever since then, I've just been pouring tons of my own time and just making it to be as great as it can be as a free plugin for WordPress.
Free is really hard to beat.
Yeah.
Can really hard to beat in WordPress. Can you tell me how long you've been developing for Pods? When did you
Uh,
find Pods?
well, Pod started in 2008 as October, so
Mhm.
we're almost here on the anniversary, cusp of 13, I believe. And there is a long history with it. In WordPress itself, we've gone through a number of different milestones to get to where we are now. And this next release we're about to push out on October 12th. That's not this Tuesday, but the Tuesday after. That's going to be the culmination of over 6 years of work into this next major release. And then the next version after that will be another really big milestone because it's the next chapter of that big part of the release work. So we've just been pouring tons of time into it. And myself, I've been developing since I was in high school. Dating myself, I was in 2004 when I graduated. So I started in 2002 with the GeoCities
Wow.
site, and here I am doing more stuff and more complicated things.
Yeah, I started back with GeoCities too, so I'll date myself right alongside you. I am super excited to see what's going on with Pods. The website looks amazing. I saw that got a big refresh. So I'm really excited to see what else is under the hood coming out. Ken in Makunji, I am not far away. I am just a bit west of Gettysburg. Scott, I'm going to turn it over to you. You can start sharing your screen with us. Scott's going to give us a demo of all the new goodies that we will see when the new release comes out for 2.8. I will be here and with you. I'm simply just going to mute my microphone and my video to let you have your screen as the main spotlight.
All right, cool. So I'm just going to share my screen. There's my screen. And I am here in WordPress on an interesting host. I'm on GoDaddy Pro today doing a little demo of the Pods 2.8 release. This is a release that I've already said is pretty big, but the biggest part of it is the fact that we've redone a ton of the stuff on the inside. So it's very, very quick, especially on hosts like GoDaddy Pro, which offer object caching and some really cool stuff for your supercharging your WordPress sites. And the Pods plugin itself, once you install it, you see this screen here under the Pods admin section. And it's just very easy to follow if you want to just go and get to it. But the actual underlying reason Pods exists is so that you can build new content types in WordPress and add custom fields to any content type in WordPress. And we mean any. When we built Pods, we built it to make it so it's very versatile and flexible. So the ability to create new content types is there, but also the ability to extend content types. So as you see here, my mouse, you can see I can create post types and taxonomies. I can also create custom settings pages. I can as well extend post types like posts and pages and any of them that have been added by plugins or themes. I can also extend taxonomies that exist. I can add custom fields to media like attachments. I can add custom fields to user profiles and comments as well. There's a lot of versatility here. There's a lot of really cool things that you can just do with a few clicks. You don't have to write any code if you don't want to. But when you get to the code side, you'll realize that Pods is pretty advanced on the code side as well. So we're a pretty big developer heavy mindset when we first started out with Pods, but over the last 6 years, we've really leveled up things so it's much easier for people just getting into WordPress or just site builders who don't want to mess with code. And Pods will do the rest for you. I'm going to go ahead and do a new post type. We're going to create one here, and we're going to call this one, we can do book. And if I want, I can just hit this next step, but also you can see we have advanced things tucked away. If you want to get to advanced options, these are where those things are, but you never really have to. You can just go ahead and hit next step. So now I'm on the new edit screen for Pods 2.8. It allows me to create new field groups. Right out the gate, I get one field group added automatically. And this one is the more fields group. What this is calling it, when you click edit, the label is more fields. So you could rename it whatever you'd like. But whenever you look at it inside of the interface, when you're adding a new book, you can say my new book and publish. So I see no fields in here yet. But when I do add my first field, let's try that. Add an ISBN number. Save. And see how fast this thing is going? Compared to some of the older releases of Pods, this thing is going lightning fast. I'm on GoDaddy Pro. I didn't tweak anything. I just literally installed Pods. So it's pretty cool. I'm excited to see how fast it's going on this host right now. And then I could see here my more field section. So you can customize this group heading here. This is what they call a meta box. If you don't have REST API enabled, you'll see the classic interface. So that's a classic editor. So you've got the title and you've got your publish box on the right side, and you also have your meta boxes throughout the page. And inside of this block editor interface, which is the default for WordPress, you'll see it right here. It can be hidden and enter information. Actually, I'll just go ahead and put it. So now I've got my ISBN field populated for this new book, and I can then go and look at that book on the front end. And I need to figure out, okay, to myself, how am I going to add this information to the actual page that this is viewing? So then I can go in and add my content. So here is my book content, and it could be anything. You have access to all sorts of different blocks within WordPress. And of course, I believe GoDaddy has CoBlocks, which is automatically activated and installed. I don't have it on this one because I didn't want to get any confusion between what Pods adds and what Pods doesn't. But if you look, you can see there's a number of Pods blocks we've added. So you can choose to show a specific field value. You can show a Pods form on the front end, which is really cool if you want to allow people to submit their own ideas for books. You can have item lists. You can list a single item just on its own, and you can include views. This could be a file in your theme or somewhere in your theme that may be a PHP file you want to embed or whatever you might want to do. That's more advanced, but it's pretty cool because a lot of these things offer caching. So as a developer, if you're getting into this, you can be like, I just want to embed this little piece of content and go ahead and cache it so you don't have to run any of the extra logic, any of the extra database stuff. In developer speak, that's really good for you. In basic speak, you don't have to worry about it. Pods is already doing a lot of stuff for you automatically. So that's the good news. But let's go ahead and start to figure out how we're going to add that content to the page. I go edit my pod. I'm back over here in edit pod section, and I'm editing the pod itself for book. I can go here to, actually, let's go ahead and enable a component. And let's enable the templates component. So tucked away in the component section is some more advanced features. By default, when you install Pods, templates will be activated for you. However, I just did a complete reset and I deleted all options in Pods, so it wasn't activated already for me. So let's go back and edit. And now we've got auto template options. So under auto templates, I can say automatically embed a specific template for a single view. So this would be the single view here. And then if there's an archive list for books, I can also embed it there. But for now, I'm going to create a new template. So before I do this part, I need to go over here to the template section. And I'm going to add a new template. And this part is very, very easy. We've tried to make it so it's not very difficult to follow along. I'm going to say this one is just the book singular. And I'm going to go ahead and select my book so that it automatically populates with the fields I have. So that's great. And now we're here in the template section. I'm going to just hide that. You can restrict access to certain templates, which is really cool, but that's advanced. So I'm in the template section here, and I can output information about the book. So I'm just going to type in some very basic HTML. So we're going to say it's just a p tag, which is a paragraph tag, and just makes it show up just very basically. And I'm going to start typing what we call a magic tag in pods. This is something that says you don't have to run any PHP. Just type in this curly brace and an @ and we'll let you know what fields you have. Because you selected the pod over here, I can say I want to just output my ISBN field and then end your tag with an ending curly brace. So again, that is curly brace @ you can type your own thing. It'll filter for you. You say post title and it'll fill it in. So there's not much work you have to do here. I wouldn't even consider this coding in our age because I believe even my father uses pods and does HTML and does coding and stuff. But there's many other people who have very little experience in the web and they can understand what certain basic HTML things are. You only have to do this once when you're setting up your site. So as a site builder, you don't have to worry about the headache of doing this every single time you want to go do things. This is just the one time you set it up. I'm going to publish. I'm going to go back and edit my pod, and it will appear here under auto templates. There's a singular template. And I want to go ahead and show it after my main content. Let's do that. And let's go ahead and use the normal filter and save that, or save all the settings. So now when I go back to this, my new book here, again, reminder, I added here is my book content here, and I have an ISBN field here. I want to get that ISBN field showing up. I didn't do anything crazy with extra HTML to say I want to make it look really nice because this is all about keeping it simple for you to understand what's going on. I've refreshed and now I've got my content here and automatically pods is added with that auto template system, the ISBN field. If I wanted to do something very specific for this book, I could say, I'm going to go and add a pods field value. I'm going to say book. And we're not going to put in any slugger ID. We're just going to leave it empty because it's going to use the current one from the current book. That's really, really great because that saves you a lot of time. And then we're going to say ISBN here. There it is. There's ISBN field. Now it's embedded into the block. So if I wanted to do some more complicated stuff for a very specific post or page or whatever post type you might have inside the block editor, it's made very easy with pods 2.8. This is a new feature, the new blocks built into pods. This is something that's very interesting because we built it to completely abstract all the stuff we were doing. We didn't want to have to write all these things by hand and then copy and paste and all that stuff. We're kind of copy paste adverse. So we wanted to make it so that we could reuse it. And by doing this, you now have the ability to create your own new blocks. So with some PHP, some basic PHP, you can create a new block that works just like this one on your own. Very simple. You need to be a little bit more of a coder to do that, but I wanted to outline that a lot of the features we build for pods are meant so that people can reuse that to make more complicated, more advanced setups. So that's a pretty cool thing. If I wanted to do the same thing, let's look at a single item. So in this single item block, I'm going to choose book. And I know that this one is ID 54, but I can leave it empty if I want to use the current book, which I will. And I can actually choose to say if I want to output ISBN here. And there is that. Let me go ahead and refresh so it picks up my template because I didn't refresh after I added that other template. So you can see how it all ties in. Those templates can be reusable all the way across your site. So there's the book singular. So I can choose this book singular one and empty this out, and it'll output that same ISBN number. So this is great because now you're thinking about, okay, you have a block and you can display your block information for any pod however you'd like. But what about widgets and what about other areas of your site? How do you get those things there? So now in WordPress 5.8, they have the ability to allow you to embed blocks instead of your widgets. So now you have your idea of a classic widget, and then you have the ability to add these blocks anywhere you'd like into your widget screen. So now you have the power of these new blocks to power all of that stuff on the widget side. So that's really useful there too, because this stuff right here is extremely super handy. Let's go ahead and switch this back to that. There we go. And I'm going to add another one. Let's go back here. Pods. Item list. Now this is cool because now you can list all of your books. I'm going to say book. And instead of doing a template here, I'm going to go ahead and do a custom one. We're going to say H2, and we're going to say post title. That's the name of that post here. And we're going to say ISBN. You have access to any field on that post type. You have access to the post title, featured images, anything you'd like. All that stuff is available for you. We have a very handy reference page on our docs that lets you know how to access just about any field you'd like, and all the cool things that come with all that. You can also add things like this. So in this case, I have a test book. I already added one already before this. So you can see this test book, and I have my current book here listed. But if I wanted to do this with a list, I could do it like this. So let's go ahead and change this to a list item. So this is now a list item, but it's not correct HTML. What we need is to make this an ordered list, or we can turn it into a unordered list with a UL. So that was an ordered list OL, and an unordered list, which is just the bullet points, is a UL. So I've got LI for list item, and here is my HTML. So very basic HTML stuff, and then you can output lots of different things. You can link this however you'd like. If you'd like to add a link, you can do that. And if there's no items found for whatever reason, let's go ahead and let's do a hypothetical example. ISBN meta value equals 123. So this should return nothing. There was this thing right here, the block itself returns as empty, so the block editor shows nothing. But what if you want to show content on the front end of the site? So you could say, there were no books found. Now you have default content showing up right in your block. And this is something different also, because this wasn't built into any part of pods before in a way that you could just type it in. You had to know all the shortcode arguments, and you had to know all sorts of different information. This is now built in with just a few types. You can just type in some things into these blocks, and it just does all the work for you. Let's go ahead and take this out here. I can order by things. So let's say I want to order by the ISBN meta value. So that is ascending, and this would be descending. There it goes. So descending is of course, that's how it works. And then you also have the ability to do pagination. So if we just limited this to 1, and you said, yeah, you want to do pagination, it automatically has those links in there. You can say show it before and after the list if you have like a bunch of items in that list. That's pretty handy. You can do basic links. You can have extra custom HTML for those things if you'd like. You can style this much more easily because they're unordered lists. There's also previous and next links only. And then there's also that part, basic links. So there's a lot of different interesting options here to be able to reference. And then you can also add filters. We don't have any extra things in this pod, but let's go ahead and explore that. We're going to leave this. We're going to close these other windows. And we're going to go ahead and we're going to leave this here. We're going to go into the component section here. We're going to go into the packages. We're going to enable the migrate packages component. And this is really great because this makes sure that your configurations are portable. And as soon as you go to migrate packages section, you can then import. You can also export. So this is what export looks like. You can choose what things you want to export and download. So here is your export package. You can download it here, or you can just copy it. But what we're going to do is we're going to import one. I've already got a package ready to go. So let's go ahead and do our book author package here. So I'm going to do this. We're going to note that it will replace whatever packaged items you already had before. So this actually did add some new things, but also replaced my book one. I'm going to go ahead and refresh this screen. It just did it all. Now my package was brought over. I can see that I've got books, distributors, formats. I've got all sorts of things that I've already packaged up from another site. That was very quick and easy. Just select the JSON file and your configuration is loaded right onto your site. Now I can see I've already configured this. So this one has icons and it has more fields available to it. I can see that I have relationships set up. So if I go to look at publisher, we have another post type called publisher. And you can see that, well, you can't see that drop down. Let's go and show it to you in a screenshot. This happens every time. No, not that one. So we have a number of different things you can choose from. You can choose to specify your own custom list. That's just, you enter some text. We have books, our post types that we've already brought into pods. We have posts and pages also that came in with WordPress. We have taxonomies. We have the new one we added for genre that was in the package. We also have the ability to relate to users, user roles, capabilities. We have lots of different options here. In addition to these things, you can choose to enable the advanced relationships component, which lets you relate to even more complicated and advanced options. Like you can relate to a whole custom database table that's outside of WordPress itself. Like if you wanted to relate to another system that you are trying to integrate with WordPress, you can do that. You can also relate to other tables from other plugins. Like if you want to relate to donations from Give, or if you want to relate to things from a Gravity form, you can do those sort of things right here within our relationship system. But I'm going to go ahead and leave this one set to publishers. I don't have another relationship, but if I had another relationship on the publisher, I can make sure that every time I save it, it will save on both sides. So if they're both related to each other, it can become bi-directional. So every time I edit one, it's always going to be totally in sync. But I'm going to leave that one there. And you can see relationship options here. Each field type has its own set of options that you can choose from. So this relationship options list option, very different types of options based off of this field type. So this one's a single select or a multiple select. And I can choose from checkboxes, multi-select, autocomplete. And this is my favorite. List view is my absolute favorite way to display content because it allows you to show icons. It has edit links. It has view links. You can do some really cool appearance stuff there. I'm a big fan of that. So that one's available for both single and multiple select. You can see that there. But we're going to cancel that and go back into it. So okay, everything's back. So we have single select and list view, and we have all the things we set here. We can have extra advanced developer stuff we want. We want to do some extra MySQL kind of things. We can do that there. We can also show which post statuses to include for that related object. And more advanced things, you can restrict visibility based off of which kind of role you have, all sorts of stuff like that. You can expose it to the REST API if you're developing with this. We also have a WP GraphQL add-on for Pods Pro by SKC Dev, which is available and does some really awesome stuff with Pods 2.8 as well. And that's the really cool stuff I added in this pod. And what does it look like when I go back to that screen now? Now that I have some real things in there, I've got access to all the different options. I'm going to go ahead and delete these blocks. No, don't need them anymore. And now we have all these different fields here. We've got release date. We've got tagline, ISBN field, publisher. I don't have any publishers. So what should I do? Should I go add a new one? I just click this button and there is an in-screen modal. It doesn't take me outside of a page, doesn't take me to the new screen, new window, new tab. It's right there. So I'm just going to go ahead and add this one, my test publisher. And I'm click publish, and right away it's added. I can see the icon. There's no featured image right now, so there you won't see that. You just see the icon, and you can see that I have the ability to do that. I can do my content. I can enter my content more easily with this interface because I don't have to switch gears and go to different tabs and then say I need to go add all my publishers. You can do that right from this screen. You can do the same thing with distributors. And look, I've got a relationship to books. So I can say I have related books. So then I can go and add new there the same way. There I am adding a new book. And it's interesting because there's a lot of flexibility with this way that we built in this very raw power in a usable way for just about anyone to build WordPress content types and custom fields with WordPress. This is one of my favorite parts about Pods 2.8 is how flexible it is with the block editor. And a lot of these things were in previous versions. However, the block stuff here, this stuff is all unique. And there's way more things inside of Pods 2.8 that I haven't gone through, but I'd love to open it up back to Courtney and start talking about maybe more like a discussion about pods and ask and get some questions answered here.
Yeah, so we do have a couple of good questions coming in. The first one that I see I'm going in backwards order. Ken indicated that he would love to see more about the relationship between pods and Gravity forms. If you don't have that queued up, Ken indicates perhaps an advanced pods webinar later.
Yeah, so I have a lot of stuff to say about pods and Gravity Forms. I have been a Gravity Forms customer since I was signed up for the announcement when they were first coming out, and I don't know how long it took me to get my work to buy the license, but I was on it. I think it was maybe a few weeks, and I've been using pods and Gravity Forms side by side since then. And I built a ton of features into that. So there's a Pods Gravity Forms add-on that's free on WordPress.org. You can utilize that to do some really cool mapping and stuff. I think that would definitely be something for a later discussion, because that right there, there's so much power in there that you may not need something like Gravity View, which is also really great. You can use it in very easy ways just to build out those interfaces and such. But the raw power of the pods and pods Gravity Forms add-on lets a developer do some stuff without the overhead of all that.
Yeah, for sure. So this, I know, has been quite a monumental undertaking. Can you tell me how Pods is made possible for free? Free 99 is the best price ever. So
free 99.
Free 99. So Pods, what's the business model to this?
So the business model is everyone uses Pods for free, and we all spend time building Pods so you can use it for free. And we just believe in making all this stuff for free so that everyone is not bound by the restrictions of commercial products. This is not always the case. Like maybe sometimes there are commercial products that really you do need to be able to buy because they're very niche. But we believe that Pods itself is not niche. There's a lot of things inside of content types and custom fields that is universal within WordPress. Just about anyone who's ever built a WordPress site can realize, oh, I wish it just had that one field here. And the power of this is explained by competitors. So we've got a number of great competitors. If you look at compare WP.org/CCK, you can see here we've got a number of different competitors that do different things inside of the space. Let's go ahead and take a look at the active installs here. This is pretty insane. So we have over 2 million people using advanced custom fields on WordPress.org. There's over 1 million people using custom post type UI. These are our two primary competitors because they do two different things. They do content types, which is custom post type UI, and custom fields, which is advanced custom fields. Pods is kind of like both. And we're kind of untapped potential here. We have 100,000 active installs, but a very loyal base. We end up seeing a lot of people coming from advanced custom fields or other content management systems who like maybe Drupal or whatever else you might have, they may come to us and see pods is actually what I'm looking for. This stuff from ACF or whichever competitor, it just didn't work out for me. It didn't have the power, the flexibility that I wanted. And a lot of features that pods has does come in third-party add-ons for some of these plugins. However, a lot of the stuff that pods has inside of it is first party. It's built in a way that is most compatible, is always kept up to date. And as we find bugs, we fix those bugs. That's just a matter of resourcing, because getting back to the original question here, these free plugins have premium components to them. So Advanced Custom Fields has ACF Pro, which is $30 a year or something like that, somewhere around there. And there's different levels. So you may be able to use it on one site for $30, and for 5 sites, it's this much more. And for 25 sites or whatever, a lot of these plugins out there have these, what they call freemium models. So there's a free plugin, but if you want the really good features, you've got to go pro. And that's different for pods, because pods is free entirely. The freeness of pods frees itself from being restricted behind, okay, what can we really push those pennies towards us? How can we really take your money and use them to build features that are more, they don't really belong in pods itself. And that's where Pods Pro comes into line. But the Friends of Pods itself, this is the program that keeps pods alive as a free plugin. If you've ever had a public radio in your area, in the US, there's many. It's just how things go. Not every radio station can or wants to have commercials and ads and stuff on their radio waves. And so there's many public radio stations whose only advertisements are their themselves, their pledge drives. And so Friends of Pods is similar to that. So when we say we take donations, it's not just, oh, donate whatever you'd like. It's more so when you want to become a friend of pods, you can choose the amount. And in this case, the default now is 29 in honor of Pods 2.9. We're going to be working really heavily on that the next few months. But when you become a friend of pods, you don't just donate money. You're actually helping pods be completely free. We have 137 donors right now that are recurring either annually or monthly. And if that doesn't work for you, you can always make a one-time donation. But before we launched Friends of Pods in 2015, I'd say we had maybe $20 a year come in from donations. But when we became more active and engaged with everyone that uses pods and make them part of the process, where Friends of Pods actually get a voice in saying, I want this feature next, or I have a bug, can you help me fix it? And we try to prioritize the things that the people who support us most want and need. We're not beholden to one specific sponsor. We're not beholden to just the corporate overlords who run our business. It's not just about the features that make us the most money. It's not a completely separate plugin that ends up siphoning away all the activity from the free plugin. Everything goes into pods. Anything that doesn't belong in pods goes into an add-on. And what makes that determination on what belongs into pods is our Friends of Pods. They help us figure out what is most important to them, and we prioritize those things. And sometimes it's not a great fit for a big plugin to have a very niche type of feature, but those things end up going into free add-ons whenever we do have time. But with this said, I did want to note that when you become a friend of pods, you get access to rewards. So you can see here, you get access to lots of different things. I hope to add GoDaddy to this list of partners. And you also get access to discounts for plugins like Pods Pro by SKC Dev is completely separate from Pods. It's not part of the main project. It's its own business. And what you get there is when you go into when you go to Pods Pro, you'll see that there's a number of awesome little niche features that not every site needs. Maybe you just want to build some really cool list tables, or have advanced relationship storage, advanced permalinks, or the really cool add-on I built, which was WP GraphQL integration. That was really outstanding for developers. If you're using REST API right now, WP GraphQL I find it way more usable, and it's really cool because the plugin for WP GraphQL includes the Explorer, which lets you build out all your APIs you want to build. So it's really, really cool stuff. And then we have Zapier integration, which is coming soon. There's a lot of cool stuff in Pods Pro. And like I said, completely separate from Pods, because I didn't want people to buy Pods Pro and me only focus on Pods Pro. I wanted it to be completely separate. I wanted Pods to remain community oriented. I didn't want Pods itself to then only get updates when Pods Pro needs them. So this keeps them separate. It keeps them honest, and it keeps all the finances completely separate. Although I should say that this weekend I'm dipping into the Pods Pro funds to help fund Pods 2.9. But that's okay. It's a worthwhile thing.
To that note, and perhaps where the money's going, for developers that want to extend upon Pods, is there documentation for that?
Yeah.
Question coming in. Yep.
So our new doc site, all of our new sites have been revamped. Just I guess a couple of weeks ago, we released the new Site Revamp, and we've been working on the code reference work. And a lot of this stuff is easy to get around and find details about if you want to develop with things and extend it. There are some things that are missing from this because we're in the midst of building the new dev docs for Pods, and that part is a project in progress. It's side by side, so I'm not actually the only developer for Pods. I should note that, because it sounds like it's a Scott Clark thing, but it really isn't. Matt Gibbs started the project back in 2008. However, we have a number of people who primarily contribute on the Pods team. Of course, I'm the lead developer. However, Jory is a great developer, and he helps with support and fixing bugs and adding enhancements. And he's also a really great multilingual person. So he's been helping us with WPML and polylang and all sorts of stuff there that really unlocks some stuff. We've got Zach, who is an extremely awesome developer. I've worked with him before at previous companies, and Zach is rock solid. He's helped build out all the new interfaces for the blocks, for the new group editor screen for when you're editing a pod. All that stuff is powered by React, and the Gutenberg blocks components that we're leveraging for WordPress itself. All that stuff is put together by this mastermind, Zach here. We've got Jim True, who's a rock star. We say rock star all the time, but he truly is a rock star. He helps us when he can with support. He's now working with Gravity Forms, doing awesome support work for them. He's doing that full time. A lot of us have full-time jobs, so this is just kind of the thing we do on the side. Some of us are freelancers. Nick Ford, he works for, I believe, a school, and in his free time, he's able to help out with some design stuff. We've got Paul Clark, who I'm not related to, I don't think, but he's helping with some support stuff. He's also a success story because he built some really awesome stuff with Pods a number of years back and has spoken extensively about that. And there's some really cool stuff people are doing with Pods to help make the world better. And just by not having to have those overhead costs of a license for a plugin for a nonprofit can be a big deal for some of these really small operations. And we got Bernard. He's over there in, I believe, Italy, and he's doing awesome stuff for Beaver Builder stuff.
Very cool. So another developer-oriented question coming in. If I already have custom post types, either manually built or with some other plugin, can those be used with Pods fields and blocks as well at this time?
Yes, everything you've seen inside of Pods, every part, except for, let's show you now. Actually, I'm going to go ahead and use this one-click action. I love this. I'm going to click it. It clicks it, and then it creates it automatically. It's just, I love it. It just makes it so much easier just to get right where you want to get. But you see here, we only have a few tabs up here. So we're not actually controlling the content type itself. And actually in this here, this can allow you to extend those content types, but it doesn't change how they work ultimately. And then we've also got REST API stuff. But the fields and all the relationship fields, all the blocks, all that stuff works for any content type. And when I say any, I mean any content type inside of WordPress that you can think of that that is object oriented, like a user or media, post types, taxonomies, comments, all that stuff. That stuff is all able to be extended by pods and add these fields to the different areas you want. So test page field, give that field. Save the pod. And we're going to go to pages and add new, and you'll see it start to appear. So this could be any post type at all. As long as they're using the classic editor screen or the block editor screen, they'll see the ability for pods to hook in and do its thing. There's a lot of power in here because this isn't just that part. It's not just entering content. We're talking about all the stuff about those blocks too. The blocks that you saw there before that you can then do your custom templating with and do the filtering you'd like to do and show just these ones with these values with this type of content. That's all available to you built into pods, because anything that pods brings into it, it's overarching hug, you could say that, that anything it hugs, it can actually do just about anything it wants with, because all of the APIs built underneath pods itself are abstracted. They allow for any content type to be treated the exact same way. So when you're developing with your content type, let's go and look at that doc page, because this one has a really, really solid example here. So if I'm looking at a pod, this could be any pod here. It doesn't have to be my pod. It could be user. It could be a post type. It could be a taxonomy term. And then I can just do a find request, and I can loop through and show different fields from those things. But lots of great examples in all of these different doc pages. You can see here, outputting a form with PHP. This is all PHP stuff. But like I said, the block editor, the short codes we have, all that stuff can do any type of pod. So that's really great power. And our relationships can even explode that further.
It's starting to make sense to me more now than in the many years since I first started dabbling with and using pods. Another question that comes in. This is sort of the background a bit maybe of how I have met Scott. So we worked on things that dealt with e-commerce a lot. Marcus asks if he wants to use pods to integrate with products inside of WooCommerce. Do they integrate well?
Since WooCommerce itself uses post types, they do integrate. However, maybe you want to like add things to certain parts of the interfaces that are custom built for WooCommerce. That can be more difficult. When I say that, I mean, when you add fields to a product, it's not going to appear in the WooCommerce section. It's not going to appear in those things. It's still going to add a new meta box to the screen, and it's still going to be possible for you to add those pieces of content, but it won't appear in the WooCommerce tabbed interface when you're managing attributes and all those things. It's not going to appear there. It's going to be totally separate. There is a place for this, because that's something I'm working on inside of the new Paid Memberships Pro add-on for pods. It's coming out the same day that Pods 2.8 releases. It's our most advanced integration ever for pods. It allows you to add custom fields to members, to membership levels, to orders, all sorts of places inside of Paid Memberships Pro. And that part right there brought a lot of unique parts to Pods 2.8. So now there's some stuff that's built into 2.8 that allows us to do things like that for WooCommerce and Give and whoever else we want to integrate with. And that's really exciting, because I love thinking about this stuff. I get excited.
It reminds me of picking up the Babel fish in Hitchhiker's Guide. Like, this tool will make everything talk to everything, it feels like, which is a developer's dream in many ways. Thank you so much, Scott. I will also say Scott was a huge help in my early days of learning about APIs and showing me about Postman and all the things. So I'm excited to see, also knowing how big React and or headless sites go, what the GraphQL tool also does for the dev community. It looks fantastic. I am eager to see this release happen. Very much so. If anyone has any other questions coming in, it looks like Charles had a question that might be a little tech support. And I think that Charles found his response or found his answer after the fact. If I'm mistaken, please let me know. Ken indicates also that Scott is awesome and very helpful. And I would completely agree with that. Every time I've had a good question, wandering into the pod's Slack area is there to give me a helpful answer. But it's been very good. I'm looking forward to seeing where this goes. Any other questions that folks have? I'm not seeing any at the moment. Yep.
If you have a second, I can show you one last thing.
Sure.
let's
We
do
got
it like
a couple
Apple style.
seconds.
There's one more thing.
Oh, here we go.
All right,
Let's see.
so let's go ahead and look at this pod here we were just looking at here, and let's remove that. We have a relationship to publisher there. Let's go ahead and save this real fast. And we're going to go back to this book section here. And we'll go back to the test book this time and add a field there. Let's go and relate to the new book. And let's do publisher. Update that. I've got some test information here. And let's find out how to use relationships to their most maximum potential. Let's go ahead and go over here to, let's go to pages. And sample page. And I'll just delete all that. All right, let's look at a block. Pod block. Let's do field value, sure. And now this time we're going to say book. And we know we were just on that new book. Let's do new book. So this ID is 54. So let's say 54. And we're going to say publisher. All right, so I just output the publisher's name. That was very easy. But what if I want to do more? What if I wanted to show the related books? I think that's the name of the book pod or book field. We'll check. Books. Related books. I tapped it. Related books. And I'm going to say post title. Maybe I didn't save. Oh, I didn't. That's right. I didn't save it. I'm going to go back over here to edit. This is where bi-directional relationships comes in really handy. I didn't go and set this in my pod configuration, but if I had edited it on my test book and I said it was related to my new book, then automatically my new book, when you go to edit this screen, you would see that that was already related to my test book. Let's go ahead and edit that real fast. There we go.
There.
And related books. All right. All right, back on track. All right, so let's do this again. Related books, because that was empty before. There was no relationship there. Now I can see this. The cool part about relationships is I want you to pay attention. If there's anything you come out of this thing we're in here together with today, is this relationship option here to do traversal. It's called traversal. So when you want to traverse across the world, you want to traverse across a relationship. And let's say I want to get the publisher name for the related book. I could do that here. What about the publisher's ID? I could do that here. What about related books? Related books. Am I going to do something really bad here? I don't know. 54. That's right. So this book was 54. It's related to another book, different ID. Then it went back to the relationship books for related books on that one, which then found it was related to 54. So that's pretty funny because you can do some really cool traversal stuff with this. And if I'm looking at this field notation here, field notation in our docs, this is an extremely awesome doc page. It's built out so you can dive into details about different things. But this relationship option here, this is the first thing you see. It's the most important because you can relate to any type of field off of those relationship options. So we can say any type of relationship, you can go down as far as you want. So if we wanted to do this, we could do this and it would actually still work somehow. Related books, .publisher, .id, and it would still work because our relationships are powerful. The relationships inside of pods set it totally apart from anything else out there. the ability to output fields from any relationship that you want. If you want to use those magic tags in the template screen, this works there. If you want to relate to things and change them and how they're filtered in the item list block, you can do that too, because find notation is the same way. You can relate to those things. The only thing you have to worry about is the prefix notation, which we make that very clear here. So that's I wanted to leave that with you, because that's a really powerful part of pods, and I would hate for anyone to leave and not realize they can do some really, really cool stuff with just a little dot.
That's exciting. There's so much potential with this. I already have a project in mind. It's the same project I came to pods with before, but I neglected completing. But it's kind of a big, massive amount of data that I need to organize. And I could see where having the ability to connect all of these relationships is going to make quick work out of all of that. Fantastic. The quick question that I saw from Charles, and if it doesn't fit here, feel free to let us know. Found it's a little tricky to work with pods taking WPC_user as a parameter. Is that easier now? And he indicates that got the info from WPC_user equal WP_get_current_user parenthesis semicolon.
Hey, there's code. You just spoke code.
I did.
Charles, I love your last name. I'm a big fan of fields. Charles, I'm not 100% sure where you are what you're referring to passing that specific variable into. However, hop into our Slack. I'll be there, so I can always answer questions, and so can Jory or Paul. Any of our team. Also, our community sits around in that Slack as well, and if they've run across stuff, they'll hop in too. So it's really a community-based effort. We have, again, our friends of pods helping us to remain funded, but we're only able to do as much as we're able to be funded. So our goal is 200 for 2021. We didn't hit in 2020 because of 2020. Of course, everyone's worrying about a lot of different things, and donating is kind of difficult to do when you're having to worry about your job and everything else. But we're hoping that we can make that 200 goal by the end of this year after Pods 2.8 is released. And we're going to be doing a big fundraising drive for Pods 2.9, because if we can get enough donors, we can have this thing released as soon as possible. Like the development's starting right now, and I'm already looking at the amount of time and cost it's going to take for me and our React work and all the other stuff that's going to happen. That stuff is going to be very important to make sure we have covered. So I'd love to have help in making it all possible by any donors who are friends of pods or people who want to become new donors.
Gina asks if you can use ACF with pods, and my piggyback on that is, if someone wished to migrate from ACF to pods, is there a migration path?
Yes and yes. We actually have a lot of people using pods alongside of ACF. I've actually contacted the ACF team at Delicious Brains, the new people who acquired ACF, and I've talked to them about how can we start discussing options of how do we integrate better in some ways. So there's some open discussion there, and seeing if there's some overlap. Not necessarily all competitors have to compete. Some competitors are complementary. So I think that can be the case in some features in ACF are really useful. And I don't think we're going to be able to build in pods without a lot of extra funding. But there's some features in pods that don't belong in ACF, and so on and so on. So I think using both side by side is pretty awesome. I've seen it a lot. And the second part of that question is, how do you migrate? So the thing with ACF is ACF stores custom fields in your table database in a way that is just you're typing the field name that you want, and then that's how it's stored. So if you say related books, it's stored as related_books in the database. And if you when you're creating your pods and you want to migrate, you just create the same fields the same way. So you can still label it related books, but when you name it, make sure it's related_books, and make sure it matches what ACF uses. Because once you do that, it'll see it automatically and start to pick up those field values. When you see it in the pod interface after you deactivate ACF, you'll see all of your fields populating based off of the same stuff you already entered before.
Thank you so much for being with us today, Scott. I really appreciate the overview. I'm really excited to actually put this into practice and make use of it soon. To let you all know, up soon, we have a Ready Your Sites for holidays in general, and that's going to focus in a lot of WooCommerce related areas in particular. There will be an event a week coming up through the month of October so that your sites are ready for Black Friday and all the things. Also coming up, I will be kicking off more of these developer oriented webinars, and we'll be going through building blocks in several different ways. And you might see pods resurface in there too. We'll see. But that series kicks off with Alex Standiford. It's been in the works. Alex has since announced that he actually joined us as staff. But this has been in the works actually since before Alex was even looking for work. So we're going to keep on with it. And we're really excited to see how we can help improve the technology skills for those that are building websites for their clients. If you need to find Scott anywhere else, I will probably direct you over to pods.io if it is pods related. Scott, where else can people find you?
You can find me at scottkclark.com or on Twitter at scottkclark. You can also find me through my music, Soft Charisma. You just search it. It's my term, Soft Charisma. And it's an alliteration of my first and last name. I just like to play music for fun.
Fantastic. All right. Well, thank you all so very much for being with us today. We'll get the replay of this published up on YouTube soon, and you'll get a confirmation probably in the emails. See ya.
Bye.
And